Okay, we're in a really good place again. We've got our form designed, we've got our form summary designed, and this is our page details that we're going to start to work on now. Now, as I think I said in the conversation in the classroom, I think this is going to be 3 videos. I'm not sure, but it might get it done in 2, but I certainly don't want to make them as long as some of the ones I've made earlier, because I think that's just over the top. So what are we trying to do? I think what we need to do is look at this Solution Explorer here. Our page has to process data. The user is going to enter their forename, their surname, and a key, which will become the password in the finished application. And then we process it, strength check it, and we then show it as a summary in the page summary. Now, this is actually quite a typical operation in terms of passing data to and fro between pages, and it's interesting that we've got the 2 pages to work with, and it shows us some techniques for doing that. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to use processes inside here that use the classes we've already made in our utility classes and so forth, in our list classes, and all of the things that we've done when we were setting up the code behind the logic layer. So the first thing we need to do is to recognize what happens when we use our controls. In here, everything that we put in here as a user when this is running is text. This will always be text, and that'll be text. Absolutely clear. Because sometimes, but not in this case, because I cleverly designed this, I hope, is the text is what we're going to work with. Now, these are buttons, and buttons do things. Now, you remember in our discussion of event-driven programming that what we watch for is when the click event of a button is raised, and that's what makes the code run. And the code that will run will use the various classes that we've got here and the code behind of the form itself, of the page itself. So what we need to do is that for each of these controls, we need to raise an event in XAML. So you'll see our code here for our button. It's got a static resource that makes it look the way it does, and it's got a name that allows us to refer to it. And what I need to do is go behind that name, make a new line, click, tab, tab, and then that will give us a default name for our handler. Now, this creates our handler, and what I do is if I go into this handler here, the handler name, and press F12, it takes me into the code behind. This is exactly what I want. Very good. So I need another click event, and that's going to be for button summary. Similarly, click the button in the interface in the designer here. Go here. It's got a name. Start to type click, tab, and it says tab. Recognize we've got this clear one. No, I want a new event handler. Tab. Go in here, press F12, and we're inside the event handler. Brilliant. All right, so what I need to do here is make sure that we add enough to make this look impressive. So this is the page behind, or the code behind. And it's auto-generated, so we didn't make this class. So today's the 23rd or 3. And the purpose is to process data suitably, or suitably anonymous. So this is the and that's us got both of our event handlers. Really good. Right, so in exactly the same principle as we used when we were making our logic layer, I'm going to do lots of things before we actually make the buttons click. Okay, now the first thing is that I wanted to show you is that you can have, this is a class, the page class, as you can see, and we can put a private class in here that will allow us just to have stuff that we can use inside this particular code set that doesn't affect anything else. We only ever use it inside this particular module. Now I'm going to make a private class like that. Okay, should be pretty obvious what this is. This is just going to handle data while we're working with it inside this form. So it's all of the things that you would have seen on the interface, the forename, the surname, and the string. We call it user string to make sure that it's anonymous and doesn't tie us down to keys or passwords. So we've got this, and that's how it's now got a private class that we can use inside our form, nowhere else. Now what I'll do is I'm just going to go down here underneath the button again, and I'm going to add a private method. Now this method is going to allow us to clear the form data and call it whenever we need. So why wouldn't I just do the things inside the logic here for the clear call button or the clear button? What I can do is I can make changes to this if we remove things from the interface and add things to the interface, and this click will still work. Separation of concerns, do one job. So here's our method. Sorry, it took me ages to get it off the clipboard there. And that's our method. So what does it do? It's a private method, and it doesn't return a value, and the code for that, as you know, when you don't return a value, is void. The method is called clear controls, and we then say make the value in the text box text the empty string, make the value in the surname text box text the empty string, and so forth. And then we move focus back to the forename text box. Really, really good to do that. So what we'll do is we'll now use that method, and we're going to use it inside our clear button click, and all we do is call this method, which is called clear controls, it's a method, and that will just clear the controls. And regardless of which we use here, we never change this, we would always change which controls you want to clear. So that's a good separation of concerns.